The DJI AVATA 2 is the best FPV drone that they have released so far. It's perfect for beginners, but it's also got a lot of features that suit professional users. And in this video, I'm going to give you 16 hints and tips to help you have a better, safer experience with your AVATA 2. And I'm also going to talk about some things that I haven't heard anywhere else. And I'm not sure why. But if you're new around here, my name is Justin, it's great to see you. And if you've been here before, it's great to have you back. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first tip is going to be related to the Goggles 3. Now when you take them off as you're doing something, you need to make sure that you do not put them in a position where the lenses are pointing towards the sun. Either put them face down or pop them back in your bag. Do not leave the lenses pointing towards the sun. So basically when you put the goggles on, you see a really big picture in front of you, but they're actually only tiny screens. And what the lenses do is they magnify that image to make it look bigger. And do you remember when you were younger, when you used to play with a magnifying glass in the sun, you would get this superheated beam of light that you could use to burn things? Yeah, if you leave your goggles in the sun, facing the sun, those lenses are going to generate a superheated beam of light that's going to burn the screens in the goggles, and you're going to ruin your goggles. So leave them face down or pop them in your bag. Okay, so next up, when you put the Goggles 3 on, if you find that you have some light leak coming in from either here or here, to solve the light leak coming in from these places, you just want to give the rubbers a little bit of a flick on the edges. That's going to help them to flick out and then seal better. Now, if you're getting a light leak coming in from the top or the bottom, this could be because you're standing with the sun behind you. If you turn around so the sun is in front of you, it's going to help to reduce this, or even better, if you can find somewhere that's in the shade that you can stand, that's going to be your best option. All right, so the next thing is going to be to make sure that when you put the goggles on, your antennas are actually pointed up at the right direction. Now, it's very easy to just pop the goggles on and forget about flicking the antennas up, and then you're flying around and being, why is my signal so bad? And it's just because you forgot to flick the antennas up. Now, although they are omnidirectional antennas, they are going to work better if they've been pushed up. So a little thing you can do is when you're about to fly, just have a quick feel of the goggles, make sure the antennas are up. It's going to save you from making this mistake. The next thing that you want to be doing is you want to be periodically connecting your Goggles 3 to the DJI Fly app via your phone, sort of every couple of weeks or whenever you see a new firmware update has been released. This is so you can keep all of your equipment up to date, but it's also going to sync your flight logs to the DJI Fly app. So if anything has gone wrong in a previous flight, you can take a look back at it and you can see what happened. This next tip is for one of my favorite features on the Goggles 3. So say you're flying around and you notice everything is starting to get a bit foggy and it's getting harder and harder to see the image. The Goggles 3 has a feature called Goggles Defog. Now, if you just pull down on the joystick and then scroll across to Goggle Defog, you can turn this on, and this is going to run the goggles internal fan at a really high speed to help to improve circulation and clear the fogging. Now, once the fog has cleared, you can just switch this off and continue as normal. This next one is another feature on the Goggles 3, and it's one that I haven't heard anybody else talking about, and it's the enhanced display. Now, you access this again by just pulling down on the joystick and then moving across to enhanced display. Now, what this is going to do is going to give the display a bit of a sort of boost in vibrance and saturation, just to make things look a little bit nicer, I think. So you might like this, you might not, but I think you should try it out and see if you prefer the image enhanced or not. It's a feature there I don't think a lot of people know about, but you should try it out and see for yourself. When we're flying the AVATA 2, we actually get a lot of telemetry information coming back to us through the Goggles 3 via the on-screen display. Now, I'm going to explain what each of these elements actually are, but the one thing that I quickly glance at very often is the bitrate in the bottom right-hand corner. This basically gives you a really quick reference on how good the signal quality strength is between your drone and your goggles and controller. Now, this shows the link quality in megabits per second. The maximum we have on the AVATA 2 is 60 megabits per second. And if you start to see this drop sort of below 20 or 15, this is starting to get quite low, and you should think about moving the drone into a position where you're going to have a better link quality between the drone and the goggles. Something else you can also do if you notice your signal starting to get a bit funny, you can also change the position of where your head is pointing, thus changing how your goggles are pointing relating to your drone. Sometimes if you go a bit higher, you might just have to tilt your head back a little bit just to get a better sort of signal line of sight to the drone, which can help to give you a better connection. Okay, so let me go over the rest of the on-screen display elements here just so you know what they all mean. So first off, we have our mode displayed in either N for normal, S for sport, or M for manual. This just lets you know so you can have a quick glance in the corner and you know exactly what mode you're in. Now, next to that, we have our altitude and our distance from home. Now, this is going to show up in whatever unit of measurement you've selected, so you can just know what your height is and how far away you are from your home point. Now, above that, we have our ascent/descent speed, and then we also have our movement speed. So on the left, our ascent/descent speed, it's always going to show a positive value. So if you're ascending, it's going to show your ascent speed, and if you're descending, it's going to show the rate at which you're descending. Now, next to that, we have our actual speed of movement on the drone. Yet again, this is going to show up in whatever units you've decided, and it just lets you know how fast the drone is traveling. Next up, we have our battery level, and this is shown as a percentage, but also the battery symbol will change color depending on the state of your battery. So if the symbol is white, you've got plenty of battery, no need to worry. If it goes to yellow/orange, the battery is starting to get a bit low, you should think about coming back. And if it goes red, your battery is really low, you need to be landing. Next to the battery symbol, we actually have an estimated remaining flight time. So the drone is taking into account a lot of different factors, and it's basically just going to tell you how long it thinks it can stay flying for. Next to that, we have our signal strength of both our RC signal and our video signal. Now RC is RC and HD is video. Now we have a simple bar system here. The more bars, the stronger the signal. And then when it starts to get low, the bars are going to go orange or red if it's really low. And also if it starts to go orange, you're going to get a bit of an orange glow around the bottom of the screen. That's going to give you a really quick visual reference that something is getting a bit low, and you can just quickly look over at your signal bars to see which of those is getting low. And if you get a red glow at the bottom, something is getting really low, you need to think about moving where the drone is to recover that signal. Next to that, we have our GPS symbol. Now this is going to show if we've got a good or a bad GPS connection, and also how many satellites we're connected to. So if the symbol is in white, we have a really good GPS fix, no issues there. If it's that orangey red color, we haven't got quite as many satellites as we would like to have a good GPS connection, so the drone is not going to be able to hold very accurate GPS position. It's likely to drift a bit until it recovers enough satellites to have a good fix. And then next to that, we have our goggles battery percentage. You want to be making sure before you take off that you're going to have enough battery in your goggles to complete the flight, because you don't want those to run out halfway through your flight. The next tip is going to be if you're flying in the mountains or the hills, you need to adjust your return to home altitude accordingly. Now this is because if you're flying at a mountain which is 300 meters high, although you're still only staying, 120 meters above ground level whilst you're flying to it, if your return to home altitude is still set to 100 meters, if you lose signal by going over the back of the mountain, your drone is not going to make it back. So what you need to do in this situation, once you've reached the peak of the mountain, just pause, see what your altitude is, and adjust your return to home altitude so it's going to be higher than the peak of the mountain. So if you lose signal, you can still make it back. Okay, so the next few tips are going to be for if you've lost your drone or you've crashed it somewhere and you need a bit of help finding where it is. Now the first one is going to be camera view before loss. Now what happens when the drone is flying is it's constantly refreshing a 30-second cache file of the last 30 seconds of its flight. So if you lose signal or you crash somewhere, you can actually access this through the goggles by going on settings, safety, and then going down to camera view before loss. This is then going to show you that last 30 seconds of flying before the drone has either crashed, stopped flying, or lost signal. This is something that you can only view in the goggles. You can't view it on your phone screen if you plug in to the DJI Fly app, but it's going to help you to get a better idea of where the drone has either gone down or where it's landed. If you've had a bit of a crash and you're somewhere close to the drone but you can't quite see it, one helpful feature is going to be the ESC beeping. Now what this basically does, you can turn this on, it's going to set the motors to pulsate, and it's going to make a beeping sound. Now you can turn this on in the menu by going on to settings, safety, and then scrolling down to ESC beeping, or if you're using the FPV3 controller, you can just press the C1 button once and it's going to start those motors beeping. Then you should be able to hear, and you can locate where the drone is by following the beeping sound, and then when you find it, you can just turn the beeping off. Now let's say that you've crashed the drone, it's not nearby so you can't hear the beeping, and the camera view before loss hasn't really helped you out too much. There's another feature you can use to help locate your drone, and it's called Find My Drone. Now to use this, you need to plug your goggles into your phone and then open the DJI Fly app. Then you want to click on your profile and then click on Find My Drone. Now what this is going to do, this is going to show you either the last recorded GPS position before the drone lost signal or crashed, and if the drone is still connected to the goggles, it's actually going to show you a live GPS position on the map. Now the drone is going to be the arrowhead on the map and you are the blue dot, and the line is basically just going to tell you which direction you need to go to get to the drone. Now, if your drone is still connected, you can also activate the ESC beeping from this interface, and you can also change the map so you can see a satellite view if that's going to help you to find the drone more easily, or you can also view these same things on Google Maps by clicking this button here. So hopefully that's going to help you to locate your drone, and then when you get closer to it, the beeping is going to make it easier for you to find its exact location. Okay, next up, I see a lot of people practicing flying their Avata 2s indoors, and there is a setting you need to change if you're going to be flying your Avata 2 indoors, and it's going to be the signal loss action. Now what you want to do here is change this from return to home to either hover or land. So if you lose signal whilst you're flying indoors, the drone is just going to either sit where it is or it's just going to land. Now if you leave this set to return to home and you lose signal, the drone is going to try and ascend to the return to home altitude through your roof to make its way back home. But unfortunately, there is a roof in the way that your drone is going to crash into, and you can just avoid this by changing your signal loss action to hover or land. Okay, so in a lot of my videos, I recommend that you shoot in the D-Log-M color profile. This is mainly because you have more flexibility in post-production, and I do a lot of editing with my footage anyway, so for me, it's absolutely fine. But if you're new to drones and new to editing, then you should just film in the normal color profile. It's going to give you a usable image straight out of the camera, and you're still going to have a little bit of room to play with it in post-production if you want to start doing that, but it's just going to give you an image that you can use straight away and is going to make things much easier if you're just getting started. So if after you've been flying you're finding that your batteries are taking an awfully long time to charge, you're going to want to check the output power of your USB-C charging brick. Now, to get the fastest charging out of the 3-port charger, you need to use a 65-watt charger. Now, a lot of people aren't going to have these lying around, so if you want to be able to charge your batteries quickly, around 45 minutes per battery, get your hands on a 65-watt charger. It's going to really speed things up. A 30-watt charger is also going to do a half decent job, but if you're using anything less than 30 watts, your battery is going to take an awfully long time to charge. If you've got the DJI FPV3 controller and the motion controller, you can actually fit both of these into the provided bag. Now, what you do is you want to put the FPV controller into the slot on its side, partially in there, and then you want to line the motion controller up so it fits in the gap between the hand grips. Then you just push them both down gently and they fit perfectly. No bulging, no damage, and it's going to make things much easier if you've been transporting your FPV3 controller separately. So those were 16 hints and tips that are going to give you a much better experience with your AVATA 2, and if you've just got it and you want to know the 7 things you should do straight away, go and check out this video right here. And if you want to learn how to get a bit more cinematic footage using ND filters, this video right here will tell you everything you need to know about that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.